All right, this week we have a very special guest. Jessica Marshall actually flew in from Las Vegas to be on the show, which I'm honored, and I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
No one's ever truly flown in just to be on the Self-Starter Show, but here we are. Jess is Ms. Daisy. Jess has blown up her business in Las Vegas. She is a florist for the stars, a florist for she's the florist of the Strip. Is that a cool thing to say?
Yeah, I think so. It's a nice ring to it.
Yeah, so what exactly are you working on right now? Tell us what Ms. Daisy looks like today.
Well, we just came off our biggest month ever to date. Started this business about 9.5 years ago. And this past month, we were just cranking business between Formula One. It was the first time Formula One happened in Las Vegas, which was huge for us, huge for the city. Rolled into Thanksgiving centerpiece orders that we had, and then AWS, which is the big Amazon week that they have in Vegas. So we were slammed. My team was slammed. We did a great job and came to New York to talk to you and relax for a couple days.
I love it. You deserve it. So has your company been growing 9.5 years? Has every month been better than the last?
I mean, I think that the floral business in Vegas is more cyclical. So I'd say like year to year it's been growing, and now I have really great data on what my strong months are and what are going to be, our best quarters versus months where there's a little bit more time to be out there and grabbing more business and working on, just back of house things.
Got it. So being that we're in December, we're at the end of the year, the end of Q4, do you segment your business like that? Like, do you set quarterly goals, yearly goals? How does that work?
Yeah, I set a yearly goal with the expectations of growing, 20% over last year per quarter. So we've been growing, which has been awesome. But I really try and just set yearly goals just because conventions really drive my business. So as much as I know that, your big conventions, they come pretty much the same time every year. Sometimes they move around. So sometimes it'll be in, Q2 instead of Q3 and things like that. So for me, like having a yearly goal number is more beneficial.
Got it. And probably more manageable than quarterly goals with what you're saying with certain conventions might be at a different time each year.
Yeah.
Do you have certain conventions that are bigger spenders when it comes to floral?
Yeah. I'd say like Consumer Electronics Show is probably our biggest show that we do.
Why is that?
We have a lot of the big brands that come to town, so we work with, different car brands, tech brands. They love to, spend. A lot of their C-level guys are coming to the show, so they want to make sure their dinners look good, that their booths look good, that the suites and the rooms are nice. So, yeah, there's just a bigger emphasis on floral and decor for certain shows versus, SEMA, which is still a really great show for me. It's just not as strong as CES.
What is SEMA?
It's the car show that happens in November. Yeah.
All right. So where did this love for floral come from? I mean, I remember back 10 plus years ago, you pretty much talking about this.
Yeah.
But let's go even further back behind that. When did your love for, one, being an entrepreneur come into play? And then how did that roll into being a florist?
Oh, man. Well, I feel like I've always had an entrepreneurial sense to me from when I was a little girl. My family's had a business in Las Vegas that I was really privileged to be able to see the inner workings of. My grandpa was a very hard worker in Las Vegas. My dad is as well. And they were just really my icons and who I looked up to understand like what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I always wanted to be a business owner. I liked school. I wasn't probably the best student out of everyone, but for me, I just wanted to make money, have businesses, and that was always been my focus from when I was, 10 years old. I was washing golf carts in the neighborhood and, trying to save up money to go to the Barbie convention that would come to town. Or, in high school, I started a shoe bedazzling company, and I took that with me to Arizona where, we both went to college. And I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit because I love making money. For me, it's fun. My dad loves making money. It's something that is just kind of in me to do, and it's always been really an exciting part of my day to day.
I love that. So
Yeah.
what was the business that your grandfather was in? Was it a family business that your dad then went into that you got to kind of see the inside workings on?
Yeah, so actually, my great-grandma, my family's been in Las Vegas since the early 50s. So my dad was actually born in Las Vegas, and I was also born in Las Vegas, which makes me kind of a Vegas unicorn, being second generation, which is cool. But my family had souvenir shops and T-shirt shops and dress shops in the big properties on the Strip since the 50s. So my family's always been in retail. Really started with my great-grandma had the first gift shop at the Temple Beth Shalom, the old temple.
I love this. I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this.
Yeah. And so she had the temple shop, and then she started selling secondhand cashmere sweaters to the showgirls in the 50s. My grandma had 3 daughters, one of them being my grandma. My great-grandma had 3 daughters, one of them being my grandma, Jane. And Grandma Jane married my grandpa Art. And Art and his brother-in-law, Herb Russo, started a company called Marshall Russo. So they took my great-grandma's store on Las Vegas Boulevard, which is kind of, now it'd be more downtown Las Vegas. It's a little store called Sarah's, and they brought those stores into the Desert Inn, the Dunes, the Sahara, Old MGM, and all of these older hotels, and started Marshall Russo, which was the clothing store.
Did you ever get to have a conversation with them about the process and making that happen?
Oh yeah, my grandpa wrote a book about it. It's pretty
Your
cool.
grandpa wrote a book about it.
Yeah, it's called The Marshall Plan, and it's all about his story and how him and my grandma got to Las Vegas from Cleveland and kind of the growth of the business. And
That's awesome. Wait,
yeah.
so how long ago did he write this book?
Probably 15 years ago now, I'd say. He passed away this past August, which is interesting because I feel very fortunate, to be 37 and have my grandpa for so long. But he was able to see a lot of my business, and he was always very proud of what I was able to accomplish, throughout my career. And it was just always kind of a cool thing that, we were always talking about business, how are numbers today, what's going on. And my grandpa then became a gaming commissioner in the 90s in Las Vegas. And then I'm kind of chopping up a story. My dad took over their business and really grew it from 8 stores to 78 stores, and then
in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas, yeah. And then there's some airport stores as well. And then they were able to sell the company and so on and so forth. But I've always been around the business mindsets of my dad and my grandpa.
Right, and seeing the inner workings and kind of seeing how it went from one store, not seeing it go from one store to 78, but being able to have the conversations of how did you do that?
Yeah, and my dad and my grandpa started a bank in Nevada with some of their business partners, and
They started a bank in Nevada. Tell me more about that. You must have a lot of information on that.
It's not really my story to tell, but I was around, the beginning workings of that. And then, my dad also has a couple of restaurants downtown Las Vegas and is in the real estate game. So for coming kind of full circle to your original question, like how did I even get into this? I always wanted to be in business. It was always something that made sense to me, something that I was really always excited about. But the floral part of it is funny because ever since I was a little girl, my mom always had a really beautiful rose garden at our house growing up. So she would always cut, a flower and have one in my room, one in my sister's room. When I was younger, my dad would always send roses to my sister and I and my mom over Valentine's Day. And I always thought that was cool. And during prom and homecoming and the dances in high school, like the corsage is, I would always make such a big deal about it. And it's so funny now because when high school kids call me about their corsages, I'm just like, it's 3 colors, like I'm not doing a leopard print ribbon. But it's funny because that's who I was always like so particular about how I wanted it. There was always something about flowers to me that was really unique and pretty and fresh and fun. And, the concept of being able to grow something and then being able to, cut it and keep it and smell it and enjoy it was always kind of fun for me. So.
And it's interesting that you didn't go into any of the family businesses, but you just took what you were able to learn from being in the family businesses.
Yeah.
And start your own.
So then when I went to Arizona, I was a retail major. And upon graduation, Terry Lundgren at the time was the CEO of Macy's, and he's an alumni of Arizona. So he came to recruit off campus and heard me speak. I was the president of a retail club, and said that he has a program at Macy's to grow buyers. And so it's kind of like a buying training program.
What did you think about? Do you remember what you thought about that when he told you that?
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to New York. Like, that's so cool. And it was just kind of like such like a big idea. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do after college, but I loved the idea of moving to New York. I had gone the summer before, and I just thought that would be such a cool next place to go. Coming from Vegas, graduating from Arizona, and then ending up in New York. And I thought I'd be in New York for a year or so with this Macy's thing, and I'd go back to Las Vegas. I ended up staying in New York for 6.5 years. And I really loved it. I loved my time here in the city. After Macy's, I was there for 2.5 years, I think. And then LinkedIn became a thing. And I made a LinkedIn profile, and then I was recruited from Ross Dress for Less. I was a buyer over there in Calvin Klein dresses. And then that was great off-price learning. And then I was playing an intramurals flag football team. So bizarre. And someone asked me, oh, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a buyer, at Ross. They said, oh, we're looking for buyers. We're creating a startup called fab.com. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like, here's my resume. I was kind of into having a little more freedom in the job.
Totally. At this point, you've gone from college to corporate, still in corporate, and now you have this startup who's bringing you an opportunity. Do you feel that you had enough? Do you feel you had enough experience as a buyer with Macy's and then Ross to then go for fab.com?
Yeah, I mean, being in the merchant training program at Macy's, understanding big box retail, and then going and learning about off-price retail, and really seeing all the different facets of what that took to run, and how to be a buyer, and how they did the open to buy and all of that. And then being able to go to a startup where they thought that I had all this amazing experience, which I did at the time, and then converting those concepts into flash sales concepts. So understanding how to be a buyer, but being able to have the relations with the vendors and saying, hey, what do you have? What can we put up on the site? And it was such a fun flash sales concept. And they were so open with trying any products really that were fun and colorful and clean photos and modern. It was a really fun time.
Well, were they still, they were still in a form of beta while you were coming on. So
yeah, I was their
probably super fun for you.
42nd employee.
That's
and
awesome.
then they blew up to over 850 employees or something. Yeah. And so I was there for 2 years. Yeah.
And what was those 2 years like? And then what happened at the end of the 2 years?
It was fun. It was like an open office format. Anything kind of went. Kind of like
much different than corporate life.
Much different than corporate life. You were able to work remotely.
Before work remotely was
this was like in
a thing. Or
2012.
not before it was a thing, but before it was kind of demanded.
Yeah, this was like in 2012. So this was a while back. But yeah, it was just fun. It was exciting to go to work. I also was working off commission. So it was fun for me to, rake up my numbers and make those big sales. And I felt like a big macher, and it was a cool experience.
What computed a sale for you? So is it you bring in, let's say, not health, let's say Health Aid made merch, and they wanted to push, we're doing a 70% off. What part of that? Was it the bringing in the client or the amount sold on the site?
Let's say Health Aid had a lot of extra product and they were sitting on it. I would say, hey, let's throw up a flash sale and let's mark it down, 20% and see how many we can sell in a day. It's just that kind of concept. And then it would really be the numbers of how much product you could sell. And then based off of your flash sale, was the vendor happy? Were the customers happy? How big were the margins?
Your Ross for Less experience probably was like the synergy from that into fab.com was probably amazing.
Yeah, it was. It was really cool. It was really Ross they do an incredible job in their business. The concept of their jelly bean assortment, not being able to find, more than 3 of the exact same item in a store is
Can you explain
genius.
that? What is it?
Yeah, so they
you just threw that out there jelly bean concept.
So the Ross Dress for Less customer actually shops the store once a week. So that customer is going to the store constantly. They go and they consider it to be a treasure hunt. So when their customers are shopping, they're having fun like finding these great items. You know, as a buyer, and your counterpart would be a planner. Your job is to be able to pulse out that product so there's not too much of it in the stores, but you're getting the deals because you're buying it in bulk, but you're putting it away. And then the planner helps like pulse out the product to all the different stores. So the concept is really making it fun. So every time that customer is coming, when they're coming weekly, that they're seeing new product and new assortments and new things. It helps the vendor get rid of items that they have that they may be sitting on, and you just are constantly selling just new and fun different products.
So is that a matter of like buying X amount of a product? Let's say you buy 100 purple shirts from Calvin Klein, but only putting 10 in this store, 10 in that store, 10 in that store, and kind of divvying it up?
Yeah, and then maybe holding on to them until next spring. If you're going into winter and then spring, okay, lavender shirts are back, and it can be seasonal. And just really having the great relationships with the vendors is what really makes that business so strong.
So 2 years at fab.com. At what point in those 2 years did Ms. Daisy start to become an itch?
Well, no, it didn't. Fab closed up.
Oh, wait. But at that time, you weren't at any point.
At that time, I was kind of like, okay, I'm kind of ready to move back to Vegas.
Well, when did you buy the domain for Ms. Daisy?
February of 14.
Okay, so towards the end.
So after, I left Fab. My time with Fab was up November 2013. Then I went to Hawaii for like 3 weeks, and I was like,
I feel like I remember you talking about like a flower shop on wheels.
Okay, yeah. So then I was like, hey, maybe I should like open up a flower shop. So what was cool is I was, walking through the flower district to get to work.
While you were at fab.com.
Well, no, while I was at Fab, while I was at Macy's, while I was at Ross, because the flower district is right before, Herald
like
Square, and that's where everyone is.
Yep.
So I would take a class here and there just to like do a flower arranging class. I thought that was fun. I thought it was cool that the markets were there, that you could kind of buy all these wholesale flowers. Yeah. And then once things, ended with Fab, I took some time. I figured, what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to spend another year in New York, and I'm going to go to flower school. And so then, that was just kind of like, I'm going back to school. Like, what am I doing?
Chronologically, so tell me where we're at right now.
We're January 2013, maybe. Maybe I ahead of myself a year. I started my business February 2014.
Okay, so about a year before that.
A year before that, yeah.
Let me go to floral school.
I'm going to go to flower school, yeah. So I went to the New York Flower School, and I did a couple of intro classes, like business and floral, how to build structures, your basic, how do you handle flowers, and I ended up doing different courses between 6 to 8 weeks.
How'd you feel about them?
I thought they were great. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, I'm going to learn how to do everything, and, how am I going to get an internship, or I need to get some real, training. And while I was there, I took a course from Meredith Perez, who owns Bellefleur. And she had been in business at that time for about 18 years at that point. But she teaches a wedding course on how to do wedding florals, how to have meetings with clients, how to write a proposal, all of that. So while I was there, I went up to her after class, and I was like, hey, I think you're amazing. I'd love to come work for you. And she's like, oh, cool. I'm not really hiring right now, but I take interns. And I was like, okay. And the course ended, and she gave me her office address.
Where was it?
She's still there. She's on 20th and 5th. Yeah, on the 4th floor. And I don't know if there's TMI here, but I found out
20th and 5th is a corner.
Yeah. No, yeah. So I find out she's Jewish. And the next day I wear my Star David to class because I was like, oh my God, this lady's awesome. I got to work for her. I find out she's Jewish. I wear my Star David the next day. I'm like, I really want to work for you. And she was like, okay. And she sees me and she knows that I'm eager. And she goes, okay, come to my office tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Mind you, I'd been making 6 figures at this point. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm going to this lady's office, and I sit there at 12 o'clock, and I am just my eyes are so big. Oh my God, there's orchids coming in, and there's delivery drivers going out, and there's she has customers coming in to talk through their weddings, and
Well,
the
at this
phone's
point,
ringing, and I'm just like a
you're
sponge.
27 years old.
Yeah.
And you have a passion for the flower business.
Yeah, like now I'm like, I want to open up my own
27
flower
for
business.
the last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
You've loved flowers. And now you have this OG,
Yeah.
this woman who is at the precipice of the industry.
Yeah.
Telling you, come to my office at this time.
Yeah.
And maybe there's an opportunity.
Yeah. So I think she may have forgotten about me in the lobby. So I sat there for 4 hours.
Stop.
No. And I just like sat there and I was just like, oh my God, I was just like listening to conversations and seeing people going by and like the flowers coming in, like all like the commotion of it. And I'm just like, oh my God, I want this, And she pops her head out. She's like, oh, I forgot you were here. You can go like clean some buckets in the back. I'm like, cool. Like I came dressed up, whatever. I like go in the back, roll up my sleeves. I'm like cleaning buckets. I'm like working with one of her guys back there. And I'm there for like an hour. And she was like, I'm sorry about today. Just come back tomorrow. And she's like, you can kind of stay for a couple of days, but I really don't take interns that long. Long story short, I ended up staying with her for about 10 months. Yeah, interning. I was there every day.
What was that like?
It was the best. I mean, I was just a sponge of, she brought me to installations. I was able to sit in on consultation. She took me to the market with her. I was able to learn how to design with her designers. My time with Meredith and her mom, Marilyn, was worth so much. I can't express, and I see her all the time. She's my mentor. I love her.
Love that.
And she just really taught me how to have just a great style and how to have finesse and in a business that is it's manual labor. It is, you're driving through the city making deliveries and you're lifting buckets of water and the cooler's cold and you get, thorns in your fingers. But that doesn't matter when you're sitting in front of a client who wants to talk about their wedding at the plaza. And so it's being able to have a business side of you and also being able to lug around buckets and unpack glass and, check on your product that, shipped in from Amsterdam and the product's frozen or something goes wrong. Like, how do you problem solve? Like, the business is all about problem solving and being flexible and having, again, like those great client relations. So my time with her was amazing.
What was your parents' sentiment of you being an intern for 10 months?
Oh, God, they were just like, what's happening? You're not getting paid. What are you doing? Like, how are you doing this,
So was it at 3 months, at 6 months? Was there any point where you said, hey, can you throw me a bone?
No, it was more like, hey, well, I was making good money when I was at Fab. So I didn't really necessarily need the bone thrown. It was more of, hey, I'm going to put together a business plan. I'm going to come to Las Vegas and open up a shop. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah. And it was, my family and friends were super supportive, but also skeptical. Like, I don't blame them, I had put together a business plan, but there weren't real financials in there. It was just kind of a concept.
Right. But also they only hear what you're doing. They only hear, I'm going to work for this master florist and here's what I'm doing. Maybe you tell them a few things you're doing. They're not actually there and seeing you sponging what's going to then shape you for your career.
And then I also was like, okay, I'm kind of getting ready to leave New York, so I'm doing all the fun things too at the same time. So I was I was interning and I was going all the places I wanted to eat and places I wanted to explore and spending time with my friends. So it was definitely a fun time. It was a scary time because I was like, hey, I really gotta figure out how am I going to make this happen. And then I came to Vegas for Mother's Day and I, just told some people, I was like, hey, I'm doing Mother's Day arrangements. And then I had 20 orders and then I had to figure out how to make them.
What do you mean I just said, hey, I'm doing Mother's Day arrangements and then had
literally
20 orders?
Literally, I just told my friends, I was like,
peer-to-peer?
hey, yeah, I'm going to come back to Las Vegas and try doing a Mother's Day. So I got 20 orders, had to figure out how to write the cards, how to get the addresses. It was a disaster. My friend Mike Horvath helped me do deliveries in his car and my car. It took us 8 hours to do these 20 deliveries. We had to turn the air down at my mom's house to keep the flowers cold enough. It was a very interesting experience. But then I was like, oh wait, I'm kind of understanding how this is gonna go. So I moved out of New York August 2014 and I opened up my shop in Vegas September.
Which is how big?
2014. The shop?
Yep. The first one you opened was how big?
It's still the same size. I'm in the same space.
Oh.
Yeah, it's in a 10,000 square foot warehouse.
You went directly into a 10,000 square foot warehouse?
Yeah, I went into a building that my dad that my dad owns. As I'm literally driving cross country to move back to Las Vegas, he calls me. I'm like in Oklahoma, like driving. I sold the building, so you're gonna have to find somewhere else to put the business. And I was like, what? How? You know, because people are starting to get their cannabis license in Vegas, so people are opening up, cannabis stores and all that, and it's in a really industrial area. So I'm still driving, whatever. Long story short, they don't close on the building, and
Oh, that's
so then
God.
that got crazy, yeah. And then I was able to be in there and revamped it a little bit. It sat vacant for a long time, and just started doing what I had to do out of there. Like I didn't even have like a full cooler. Like I was working out of like a shitty old dairy cooler from like a 7-Eleven. That's where I would store my flowers.
Got it, like a walk-in fridge.
It wasn't even a walk-in. It was just like a slider.
Oh.
Yeah. Now I have a huge proper walk-in cooler, but at the beginning I didn't.
So at what point did you start building out the space?
Like year by year. I think I just put that big cooler in there like 3 years ago. I was operating off of smaller coolers. I got one delivery van, that I bought off my grandpa in trade for flowers for a whole year. So like it takes a village. I'm sure you hear that, but it really does. And then just the big holidays were just crazy at the beginning because I was asking for like my family and friends to really help me and
help you with like
making
work?
deliveries,
Okay.
processing flowers, taking orders, just packaging things, and yeah, all of it. Yeah.
And what's been the biggest catalyst for you with growing your business in the last 9 years?
I guess like staying motivated and hungry and wanting to keep it going. It's a grind of a business. There's always something happening, but then at the same time, there's like, big brands that are reaching out that want to work with me, and I find that to be amazing.
And you take everything inbound. You do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we take anything that comes through. It's like, hey, like let us know what your budget is. We'll make it work. Like, I hardly ever say no to anything.
How many employees do you have right now?
It's a funny question for right now, but right now I'd say like about five full time and like 3, 4, 5 freelancers. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. What would be the best type of referral that anyone could give for you?
Like for business?
Yeah, like to help grow your business.
Just more business referrals. I mean, we love doing corporate work, so it's fun. That's kind of a fun thing for me because I still get to use that, that New York work mentality of like turning a proposal around same day. As soon as people send emails, I'm responding right back to them. And
Which in Vegas people probably aren't
as
used
quick.
to.
Yeah, I think like there's like more like that West Coast mentality of I'll get to it. Where I'm like, no, like if it's not going to be me, it's going to be someone else. So it's just kind of like seizing the opportunities when I can.
I love that. And what do you think now we're ending Q4 in 2023? What does 2024 look like? I usually don't like to look at like a year plan.
Yeah.
But being where we are in the year,
yeah.
What does 2024 look like for Ms. Daisy?
Well, 23 was amazing because it was our first Formula One that we had in Las Vegas, which was huge.
Do they plan on bringing that back next year?
Yeah, they have a 10-year contract, so there'll be 9 more years of that, which is awesome.
And 9 more years of Ms. Daisy doing floral for F1.
Yeah, and then like this past year we did the Ben Affleck's initiative for the Congo party that happened at Lavo. So we did all the florals for that, which was huge. We worked with like Mercedes and just big brands that were in town. And then for 24, what's exciting is that we're one of the recommended vendors for Super Bowl. So Las Vegas has a Super Bowl in February, and we're one of their approved vendors for people
And that's
to
right
use.
around the corner. That's not too many weeks away. How long in advance? How soon in advance do people need to be putting in these orders?
We already have some clients that have already signed with us like a month or two ago. But right now, we have a lot of proposals out there, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot of business from it because, my business woman owned and born and raised in Vegas, so people really want to work with the locals there, and it's awesome.
Not only
doesn't really get more local than me, I guess.
You are literally second generation local woman owned business in Vegas.
Yeah. And it's exciting. And then 3 days after Super Bowl is Valentine's Day. So My people will be real happy with me that week of February.
That's amazing. And
then ask me how many employees I have after that. Just kidding.
You're going to be less or more? A lot less.
I mean,
Hopefully a lot more.
Everyone's just going to be working to the bone that week. So.
Yeah, but people probably want to work with you because your energy is infectious.
Yeah, thanks. I try.
Right?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, but like
you have to want to work for me. You know what I mean? Like you have to like be hungry to work and to grind it out, and to know that not every day is going to be the same. And today maybe you're doing deliveries, tomorrow you may be flexing roses, 1,000 roses, or you may be standing in the loading dock at the Venetian, or doing an installation at the Wynn, or maybe you're just dropping off flowers to a funeral home. You never know. Like flowers are for every occasion. The funny thing about the floral business, it's the last thing to get added, for an event, because it's like, oh yeah, I need flowers. And then it's the first thing to get cut when it comes to budgets. So for me, like my sweet spot is having those relationships with the clients, making sure that whatever their needs are, I can, meet them, and making, and hoping that they're pleased with our services so that they come back next year. And that's kind of like the beauty of the business.
And you're 9.5 years in, and 9 years from now, you're going to still be ticking.
Yeah.
I love that.
Definitely.
Do you have time to read? Like, what are you reading right now?
I'm not.
Or you're just too busy?
I'm not reading anything right now.
No?
I'm just working right now. Yeah.
What's the last book you read?
I can tell you when I get back to my friend's place that I'm staying at, because I brought it with me.
Oh, you brought it with you?
Yeah, in
Okay.
hopes of reading it at some
Got
point.
it. I mean, Vegas, what's that, 5-hour flight?
Yeah.
Like, if I don't sleep, because that's the only time you're going to read it.
Yeah.
On the flight.
Yeah, but I'm sleeping or I'm working, because now planes have Wi-Fi's, so.
Yeah, thank God you have an iPhone. Think about, like, back in the day when your grandpa and your dad were
Yeah.
running the business, and, like, they had to send faxes.
Yeah.
Or they had to talk to people. They went
it's
there.
Nice. Yeah, but it's also, it's hard. You can't really disconnect when you leave. You're still, doing everything. So it's good. It's good. It has its pros and cons.
Yeah. So what's one book recommendation, though, that you would recommend to anybody?
I don't know. I don't have one. I don't have one off the top of my head. I really haven't had a chance to read or do anything really for myself.
Is there any book that's kind of helped you in the last 10 years?
Yeah, sure. Like, I mean, it's funny. So my grandpa passed away in August, and he wrote that book, Marshall Plan, and I love flipping through it. I miss him, and just to get some inspiration. My grandpa was a handshake guy. He always cared about preserving relationships and friendships and making sure that bridges were never burned. So, the past couple of months, I've just been referencing his book, actually, and being able to, like, flip through and just read a story.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it just kind of keeps me motivated, to even if a client's like, oh, we're going to go in a different direction for this conference or whatever it is, like, no problem. Like, we're always here. Let us know if you need anything. It's never like being salty about if, something doesn't work out, or, if a client isn't happy with something, how do you fix it, and then just, dusting it off and just moving on.
I love that. Your grandpa's going to literally be with you, guiding you for your entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm lucky to have that.
I love that. I guess in similar sentiment, give me one word of advice for anyone trying to make it.
Just be authentic to yourself. Authentic, everything you do, is it authentic? Is it your idea? Is it what you wanted? And I think when you try and be something else, or you kind of lose sight on like what your initial goal was or your initial goal is, and knowing like what do you want, like what's most important to you. Don't, at the beginning, like you said, you're like, oh, you're going to do like a delivery. It was like, I thought I was just going to do like a flower delivery service, or it was like more of a subscription kind of thing. And then when I really thought about it, I was like, wait, like I don't know if that is what I want. Like I just want to, I want to sell as many flowers as I possibly can. Like how can I do that based off a subscription service when half of Las Vegas goes out of town in the summertime when it's 120 degrees, So things that just change. But when you like, come back to yourself, it's also something like my grandma said. She always told my sister and my cousin and I, she always said, remember who you are and what you are, and never lose sight of that. So if you always remember that, and you can always be true to yourself, then every day will be a good day. No matter like what shit flies in front of you or the problems that happen. Because every day there's problems, right? Like
especially in
shit
your
rolls
business.
Uphill. There's today I'm dealing with problems. 2 days ago I was dealing with problems. Even if I'm out of town, like there's still something going on. But I guess if I look at these as opportunities and I don't really let them get me down, then you just kind of know, you know what, like I was built for this and I can handle it, and I'm just going to make the best of it and move on.
Yep, and you'll always have new problems that you've never seen,
Yep.
but you'll always have problems, and as the new ones come about, now you'll have the experience on how to attack those.
Yeah. So
I love it.
it's cool.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Jess Marshall, Ms. Daisy, thank you.
Thank you.